Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Saad Faraz here, and we are doing a series called I'rab al-Quran. This is not Tafsir al-Quran, this is rather I'rab al-Quran, which is just breaking down the sentences of the Quran, seeing how we can understand the meaning of it, the superficial and basic meaning of it. The goal of this is not to necessarily give you the stories, the fiqh, the hadith behind the surah. Rather, it is to understand how the language works and to see how the sentences are formed, and to also maybe sometimes go through translations to see why certain people translated things certain ways. And so this is going to be a long-term series, but inshallah ta'ala, we will have himma to continue. So the book that I am using to go through this is by a scholar named Mahyiddin ibn Ahmed Mustafa Darwish. He is a Syrian scholar who passed away in 1982. And the book here is called I'rab al-Quran al-Karim wa Bayanuh. The I'rab al-Quran and its clarifications. And so the reason why I chose this book is because it's pretty simple. He doesn't go too in depth, but he gives just enough information, and then sometimes he'll even give different authors' opinions about what the Arab is, and many times he gives Zamakhshari's opinion in his Tafsir al-Kashaf in explaining what some of the verses are. So I'll start with Surah Al-Nas because it's the last surah. I'll create a separate video just for Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we won't do that here just because that'll take some time to discuss what the B is. I'll go straight into the verse and then we'll just start from there. So the surah starts with قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. And so just go through the i'rab. We have i'rab here. This is the verse, and we have here قُل. So he's saying قُل is a fi'l amr. Okay, it is a command tense. So in the Arabic language, we have three verbs. Actually, we can even break this down even further, and so you can fully understand what we're going to talk about here. In Arabic, we have two types of sentences. We have two types of sentences. So a sentence in Arabic is called a jumla. Okay, a jumla. We have two sentences in Arabic: fi'liya and ismiya. Okay, fi'liya and ismiya. Okay, fi'liya are verbal sentences, meaning they start with a verb, and ismiya are nominal sentences, meaning they start with a noun. And so verbal sentences, they require two parts. They require a verb, right, which you call a fi'l, and they require a doer, which is a fa'il. Okay. Now, verbs, there's three types of verbs in the Arabic language. They are the past, present, and command. So these are the three types of verbs in the Arabic language. And it is really important to know these three types because a lot of students get confused that there might be a future tense, but there's no future tense in Arabic language. And so a command tense is called an amr. So he's just telling us that this is an amr. This is a command, qul. Now the way we got qul is it starts with taqulu, okay? Taqulu means you say. And the steps in order to get a command tense is you remove the prefix ta, and then you put this into the state of jazm. Jazm means that you add a sukoon here at the end. Now the problem is that you have a waw sukoon and lam sukoon next to each other. And we have two sukoons next to each other, and one's a weak letter. We call this iltiqa sakinain, which just means that you drop the weak letter. And so this is how we got qul. So the morphology is qul because of these steps we covered. So he's telling us it's a fi'l amr. So he's not going to tell you how he got qul, because he's going to assume that you know some Arabic. So that's why I'm going to chime in and help maybe fill in some of those gaps where I feel like it's necessary. then remember what we said, every verbal sentence needs a verb and a doer. So he's saying, okay, the verb is a command. The doer, fa'iluhu, its doer is what? Mustatir taqdiruhu anta. So he's saying that the doer here is a hidden anta. And we'll go over it, but for some certain verbs, there are hidden doers. So that's what this means. Mustatir means hidden. Taqdiruhu means we estimate it as, and anta means this is what is the actual doer. Anything about jumla, the jumla, the sentence, a'udhu, a'udhu, right? The sentence a'udhu. So a'udhu is another sentence. So if you look up here, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, right? This is one sentence, okay? And this is a separate sentence, okay? Now, what he's saying is that, okay, we have our nominal sentence, we have our verbal sentence, but having another verbal sentence next to it is a little odd. So what are we saying is the relationship between these two? He's trying to say that, قُل, say, and then whatever you say is going to be in parentheses. And so say this, say أعوذ برب الناس. This whole thing is going to be the direct object of قُل. And we call, when it is a sentence that is a direct object of say, that comes with the verb قال يقول قُل, we call this sentence specifically a مقول القول. Which just means that this is the statement that should be said or was said. So if we actually scroll down here, we'll see that he's saying, أعوذ is what? أعوذ is the مقول القول. It's the sentence that is under quotation marks. And then he goes, so that's the syntax. And he goes into the morphology of this, and he says, أعوذ as a single word is a fi'l, and it is mudari', okay? So fi'l mudari' up here means present tense. So present is going to be mudari'. Okay, then he's giving us the grammatical state. It's marfu'. Marfu' means in the state of rafa. What does rafa mean? It simply just means in this case that it ends with a dhamma. So it could have either been a'udha, a'udh, or a'udhu, and he's saying it is rafa because there is a dhamma here. So he's just making note of that. And then he's saying, okay, for every verb we have to have a doer. وَفَاعِلُهُ, and its doer is damir. Damir means a pronoun. Mustatir means hidden. Taqdir means we estimate it as. And the hidden pronoun is going to be ana. So that's what this whole thing means. And this will be the doer, ana. Okay, so he's trying to say here that the doer of a'udhu is a hidden damir mustatir taqdiru ana. Okay? Then we go and we continue. And then he says, وَبِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, okay? قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ. So this is the verse he's quoting. So he says, بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ is what? It's مُتَعَلِّقًا بِأَعُوذُ. So he's trying to say here that بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ is مُتَعَلِّقًا. Muta'alliq here. So the idea is that in Arabic, if you have a harf, let's say harf al-jar, like, and what are huruf al-jar? Like fi, li, ila, right? There's other ones as well, but you get the idea. B. What the huruf al-jar, that means like in, with, on, something of this nature. This is an impartial sentence. This is a partial sentence. This is not a complete sentence. And so because it's a partial sentence, this partial sentence has to connect back to a part to give full meaning. The reason why it's partial, if I say in the house, what's in the house? Oh, the book is in the house. So in the house has to be connected back to the book. So what he's trying to say is, بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ is a partial sentence. In the Lord of the people, in the Lord of the people. So what about in the Lord of the people? He's saying it's muta'alliq. It has a connection. But to what? The connection he's saying is back to a'udhu. What a'udhu? I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind. So if we scroll down here, we see it's saying muta'alliqan. Okay? That both parts, Rabb and Nas, are, they go back to a'udhu. So they go back to a'udhu, right? And then this is going to be the end of the first verse. So then inshallah I'll see you in the next verse. Next verse. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.